The universe, to me, is self-evidently moving between narrower and narrower walls. That's not orthodox. Orthodoxy says the universe is a random walk. There are no constraints. There is no telos, is the way a scientist would put this. Telos is the Greek word for purpose. The universe does not have a purpose. We are not evolving toward some idealized future state. I think we are. I think that self-evidently nature conserves complexity. And if you define complexity as the number of points cotangent in a system, then obviously ultimate complexity is achieved when all points are cotangent with all other points. And that is a state of hyperdimensionality. And I think that's what we're migrating toward. That's why boundary dissolution is so important, because ultimately all boundaries will be dissolved. I mean, we quibble about a boundary like the difference between men and women. That's a political boundary, the differences in which we treat men and women. That's a political boundary. But eventually, all boundaries are destined to be dissolved. The boundaries between men and women, the boundaries between young and old, but then the boundaries between people and nature, the boundaries between plant and animal, and then even more ultimate boundaries, the boundary between life and death, the boundary between earth and space. All boundaries will be dissolved in the universal process of complexification that is leading toward all points being cotangent. And the psychedelics, because they give you a little bit of hyperdimensional vision, show you this cohering process, which I call concrescence, using the terminology that Alfred North Whitehead popularized. The universe is growing toward concrescence. This is an interesting idea because it's very counter what we've been taught. We've been taught that the universe is basically incomprehensible, unimaginable in its size. We are somewhere in it very typical. Everything about us is typical. Our star is typical, our planet is typical, we are typical, and therefore no value should be conferred on our existence. But this is just simply somebody's idea. Measurements have only been carried out on this planet and in this solar system and for 1 century. So upon what basis do we generalize from these measurements to a statement about the character of the Chiliocosm? It seems ridiculous. I think that the presence of evolution, traceable in the paleontological record of this planet, and then the presence of ourselves emerging out of animal organization and moving rapidly toward a disincarnate electronic global civilization must mean that we are being channeled into deeper and deeper complexity at a faster and faster rate. And when you penetrate hyperspace, this is the landscape you see. You see the funnel that is channeling us toward a kind of hyperdimensional nexus point beyond which we can't project because our intellectual equipment can't be pushed past that point. Yeah.
You envision this as what's happening until 2012, and what do you think, what's your idea of what's going to happen in 2012?
All points will become cotangent in a superspace. Can't say. Not that we don't know. Can't say. Language is not capable of describing a cotangent hyperspace.
Will that thus open in all the dimensions, or?
Yeah, basically, you will be everybody. Everybody will be you. You will be everywhere. You will be every when. You will be every which. And every when, which, and where will be you. All assumptions of distinctness will be illusory. And so we can see this happening. I mean, people are fond of saying the Earth has shrunk to a point under the influence of electronic technology. It's a nice way of putting it, but it's just beginning. The World Wide Web further shrinks it. And when the World Wide Web is virtual and an implant behind your eyelids, and, I mean, you can carry out these fantasies for yourself.
A little bit. Coming a little bit more sooner than Tippler sees.
Yeah, mine's the earliest of all of the non-completely insane people, or the latest of the completely insane people. Yes.
Well, the Carolyn shamans from that live in the Indies at 17,000 feet, they, according to their prophecy, which they're the direct lineage of the Incas, they said that in 1995, they are coming out of the mountains because it is part of their prophecy that they will come and teach the earth how to shift into the planetary consciousness, which is evolving and beginning this year, and then will shift into the next millennium. And that the body of it will come out of North America because we have done so much destruction, and also because we know how to manifest in the body. That the intellect will come from Europe, and that the heart and soul will come from South America. And that they're coming down to teach how to begin to move into this type of consciousness.
Well, there is a lot of this kind of anticipation of a great shift. And I think there's more to it than simply the pressure the millennial turn of the calendar puts on us. This garden party is over. There's nothing but crumpled plates and stabbed out cigarette butts in aspic now. It's over. The party's over. And where we're headed now is not clear, but we have finished our sojourn in three-dimensional space and historical time. And our technology and our dreams are about to carry us further. What this means for the rest of the Earth is hard to say. Life once left the oceans. Life once elaborated oxygen to the point where it threatened its own survival on the planet. Dan Joy once said to me, once you strip away the height, it's just another concrescence. Quite true, but the hype is major because, we haven't seen a turning point like this since before the bust-up of Pangaea, and that was 275 million years ago. This is bigger than that, and it's mind shedding matter. Matter was the vehicle that could carry mind a certain distance in its self-revelation, but now, clearly, we have become a toxic drag on the rest of nature. And it means it's time to move on. The womb would like to expel this puppy into whatever hyperspace awaits us. But clearly, if we remain in the womb of three-dimensional space and time, we're just going to mess the joint up, toxify it, wreck the oceans, and ultimately pollute ourselves and everything else to death. So the time has come to move on, and hey, we're moving on. Yeah.
What responsibility do you personally have? You spoke earlier not necessarily being so optimistic that we'll be able to make it into this next.
I think the responsibility that we have is to spread reasonable hope. In other words, a lot of people are becoming frightened, and a lot of people will be more frightened. We haven't hit the white water yet. It's coming. But this is the long garden party before the white water. And there are going to be a lot of doomsayers. There's going to be a lot of ugliness, like Rwanda, Bosnia, this sort of thing. Much reason for despair unless you have the broad picture. But I think that our purpose is to educate ourselves about the situation, and that when that task is completed, you will be filled with hope, and then to spread that hope. There is no other ideology of hope on this planet. Christianity is so dramatically on the ascendant because it offers otherworldly hope. It denies this world. It consigns it to the flames and asks you to seek salvation in some other world. Secular humanism and its various forms, capitalism, so forth and so on, offers nothing but more stuff. You know, they are willing to hasten the end in order to keep people playing deck tennis while the Titanic goes down. There is no sanctionable position of hope except the belief that history is ending, and that the acceleration of novelty, which we see happening back and back, the further back in time you go, the less novel things are and the slower time moves. Now we have come to the place where time is moving very quickly, so that by a moment in the future as near as 2012, we may traverse as much distance as we've traversed from the Big Bang to this afternoon in terms of how quickly things are going to unfold. James Joyce said, man will be dirigible. It's a wonderful thing to hope for.